Hello, everybody, and welcome to another OSINT Curious live stream. Today, you don't see Micah on the screen, but you see Robin. Hi, Robin. How are
Micah,
you?
doing well. How
But
about
you
you?
very well, thank you. But in fact, we also have Micah with us. Hi, Micah. Where are you? We can hear your voice.
Hey, Christina and Robin, it's good to be here. Sorry I can't be there visually.
But you're still here, Micah. I don't know. Somehow you always make it. Thank you.
You are
So
welcome.
welcoming Robin. Robin is also the Discord moderator of our OSINT Curious channel and mentioning our OSINT Curious channel on Discord. Please make sure to subscribe to our OSINT Curious Discord channel. The links are right now passing by your screens down below, but they are also going to be in the show notes. Also, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. You can communicate with us there, ask questions, share resources. We will also be happy to review them and perhaps add them in a future podcast. And if you want to support us, you may do so through our Patreon links. All these details are going to be in the show notes below on the podcast and the YouTube video. Also, for whoever is live right now and is watching us, hello to everybody. Make sure to ask your questions, say a hi, and participate in the live stream as you wish. But without further ado, I think we can get started with today's topics. Everybody ready?
Okie dokie.
Yes.
Yeah, ready?
Perfect. So for this month, I would like to start with our new OSINT Curious blog. We had 5 members of our TOCP group, of our OSINT Curious group, giving one small tip for everybody who wants to get into the OSINT community or get into the professions, or maybe the people who want to change careers and they are suddenly looking into what OSINT is and how they can get into it and get overwhelmed with the vast majority of resources of getting started, but also all the different types of OSINT work there is out there. Micah, you also contributed a tip.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
want to.
It was neat putting this together for our team because this was one of the fun things that we used to do is everybody would contribute to the same post and you get different perspectives. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can get into OSINT, and we're seeing more and more resources that are out there. So we just gave a quick top 5, but those quick top 5 things are there's a lot of things to do once you start working on those 5 tips.
Yeah, I think so too. So the starting tips are short. You can go through them within 5 minutes, but then following up on them, this is the most important part. And I think one of my favorite ones has to do with following and creating curated lists of your favorite OSINT analysts, seeing how they are tackling work, what challenges they are facing, but also looking at at tips and techniques that they use in their daily work. Robin, you also got started in OSINT at some point. Do you have a favorite tip?
Oh, let's see. I got started in OSINT when I found the OSINT Curious project. So probably a lot of what I say is a repeat. But the tip that I found most useful is clicking around. When you get to when you get to a site, just explore. Figure out what things do. Read through the JSON data and try to figure it out yourself. Try to match it up to what you're seeing on the site. I like exploring new social media platforms, and clicking around is one of the best parts. It's fun, it's informative, and it lets you discover things that may not have been widely disseminated throughout the community yet.
Sounds like you fundamentally have to be OSINT curious.
Absolutely.
Well, and I have a question for Robin, and not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but you are one of our wonderful guests and moderators of the OSINT Curious Discord. So did you already have a fundamental knowledge of like how websites go together, how the internet works before you started in OSINT? Because I would imagine for some people, just clicking around, like getting into the JSON of the source code of the page might be quite daunting. Did you already have a foundation in that before getting involved in OSINT?
So I feel like I still don't have a foundation in that. I did not. I am from the analytics side rather than from the cybersecurity side. So no, I really have, my technical knowledge is very limited, but I enjoy learning by sort of like getting in there with the data. So, as I would find things of interest, I would query them, and I sort of like learned piecemeal just by like getting in there and using like a website as a sort of like as a case study, and learning. And that things that I learned that way tend to stick with me better. So I'm slowly building my knowledge that way.
That's great.
Yeah, I
Thanks for
feel
sharing.
that building your knowledge never really ends. I think we will all continue doing this for the years to come. But it also helps that we have one another to ask questions. But we will also get to that later. So anyway, quick short and sweet tip is to go to our OSINT Curious, the 5 tips to get you started in OSINT. Oops, and this is also the link. I think I missed the link, but it's okay.
It's okay. I put it in the chat, and it'll be in the show notes for those of you that are on the podcast.
Yes, it will be in the show notes. Everything will be in the show notes, like always. And I would like from that to jump on to the next topic, which comes from the OSINT Jobs from the OSINT Jobs website. Laurent, who is behind this website, is putting now since 1 month a list of interviews about what hiring managers are looking for. And I feel that these two topics interconnect very well because, yes, on the one hand, you want to get started in OSINT somehow. You want to learn, you want to learn the different fields, how things are. But in the end of the day, many of you, from what we hear, want to get a job in OSINT eventually. And it helps a lot when you know what hiring managers are asking for. So in the OSINT Jobs blog, you can see the link in the show notes, but also in this video for whoever is watching us. In this blog post, you can see 6 different interviews so far from different people, some of whom are currently hiring, which I think is pretty useful. And in these interviews, there are questions like, okay, my favorite one, how can candidates stand out right away? Or there are other questions, and here, actually, I'm not going to say what the interviewee is asked, but I'm going to ask Robin and Micah, starting from Micah. What kind of character traits do you find beneficial during interviews? Micah, if you were a hiring manager, what kind of traits would you find beneficial in an applicant?
That's a very great question there, Christina. I love that Laurent has that in there because so much of what we do in open source intelligence is not necessarily about the tools. It's not about the can I Google. We can teach anybody to Google, but it's also how to think. It's how to analyze. It's that persistence and dedication. I know that each of us, when we're doing our investigations, we come upon these virtual dead ends where you're like, oh, this is not going to go any further. But then you do some more research. You use that initiative, you use that determination, and you find that somebody wrote a real weird blog post like 3 years ago on how to do exactly what you need. So in my mind, the personality traits and the temperament of the employee or the potential employee are so much more important than the actual do they have a certification, have they taken this training or that training? Because I can always train people. I can't give you that persistence and that resilience in your work.
Persistence. Would you call it stubbornness?
Stubbornness has sometimes a very a negative connotation. I like resilience and determination, but you can use whatever words you want.
And we can stick with persistence for this one. I agree. We have one of our listeners saying that curiosity is a big trait. For me too. I love the trait of curiosity. I think you have to be a little curious. And for me, it would also be the willingness and the dedication to learn, because you will reach so many roadblocks and so many points where you just get confused or you cannot find any data. So having the willingness or not knowing a technique, not having background in certain areas of your investigations, You have to take a step back and decide to learn to figure things out, to learn the skills that you need, to just persist on your case. Robin?
So yeah, absolutely. All of those things, those are the high points I would have hit. I have done some hiring in the past, and absolutely have taken candidates who showed enthusiasm and motivation, persistence over more experienced candidates, especially like people with passion and enthusiasm, because that's what really drives the curiosity and the willingness to learn. I guess, so if I have to come up with something different, I suppose it would be like self-directedness, the ability to sort of not need someone to like handhold you through every step. If you hit a dead end, figure out the next place to go, do the research or think through the problem. So yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that I found it's very hard to teach people is to be self-directed. So if I can get that in somebody, up front, then I would rather have that than, as Micah said, like things that you can easily teach, like techniques and tools.
Yeah, I love this trait. I love people that have this trait. At the same time, I feel we need to know where our limits are and where we should ask others for help. But overall, I would prefer a person that has this self-directedness and also knows their boundaries and can ask. But there comes the whole topic of self-awareness, which is pretty big. But yeah, this is very good input. We had someone in the chat saying that for many companies, all that matters is giving them A's in whatever classes they took in college or whatever. And yes, this is the case in some companies, but could you really want to work for a company that prioritizes that? I don't know.
Well, I think, Christina,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the other things that self-directedness is, I notice with junior people or people coming into the field, they might not know how to go about and find that next answer or the answer to their question. But I love it when people come to me and say, hey, I've already done this, and this. What's next? Because that shows me, I guess, that initiative, that self-determination to go forth. Even if they don't know how to continue on and they're at a true roadblock, I'm happy to help out with that. If you've already done the Google, if you come to me and say, hey, I'm doing the things that you told me, what's next? And you're like, well, have you Googled it? Have you looked for blogs? That seems more of a waste of a senior person's time. And so
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. You're not supposed to chew their food and feed it to them too, in any case.
I do not know that phrase, but that is a horrifying phrase.
I don't know how to translate it in English, but
okay. No, that makes sense. Like a mama bird like chewing up.
Yeah, exactly.
The food. Actually, there's a clip out right now of a baby bird. I guess they get so used to having their food chewed up and spit in their mouth that when they first start hunting their own food, they don't understand why the bug doesn't just go in their mouth. So there's a very funny clip of a little baby running around like with his mouth open, chasing a bug, just like waiting for the bug to come into it. And I watched it. I'm like, man, this reminds me of like so many employees I've had.
Right? And this is exactly why we use this phrase. It's for all these people that are just not willing to do any effort, but very willing to have you do it for them. I think nobody loves this trait in any job. It's not a very self-sufficient trait to have, but it's something you can always work and grow out of.
Yes. And I'll say for anybody who's not familiar with, for people who are newer in their career and may not understand why this matters so much, if I, every time I have to stop what I'm doing and help you do something that you could have figured out if you Googled it, that's time lost on my own responsibilities and, it's a distraction. So managers who think that you're going to cost them time instead of save them time, that's sort of a red flag for a lot of hiring managers.
Actually, that's a very good point to bring up, because managers also do their cost benefit analysis and they try to figure out if you're going to cost them time, like you say, and effort. And they don't want that. They want your job to support them and the team and the organization, and not and they don't want to put more work on their already very busy schedules and plates. But speaking of which, and Micah, you mentioned it in the beginning, all the 6 interviews that are uploaded right now in OSINT jobs that have to do with what hiring managers are looking for, they are really, all questions are very good. And for example, there's also one regarding the onboarding process. Wait, let me see, not the onboarding process. Where is it? Yeah, what does the recruitment process look like at your organization and how many steps there are? So for people that are not sure how to conduct themselves in an interview, what's happening there, what they should expect, it's really cool to read through the interviews to see what every different company does, how they approach the topic, what steps they are, what they should expect. Some interviews are more descriptive than others, but I think it still helps take this uncertainty away from the whole topic. And also, yeah,
I was
go
going to say
on, Micah.
absolutely, and Laurent's really good about grabbing people from different fields that touch
Yeah,
OSINT, as well as an international group of people. And you know that Laurent was one of the founding members of OSINT Curious, so that diversity of input to his blog series is just fabulous. So I think a lot of our
yeah,
listeners would be happy to, well, would be able to relate to that.
yeah. And if nothing else, you can also do your own gap analysis, see what hiring managers are looking for, what you have, what you don't have, and work on the things you don't have.
Yep.
Good. I think we are covered. Robin, anything else, or should we move to the next topic?
No, I think we can move on.
The next topic is actually still for the people who are getting into OSINT, or also for the ones that have been working within OSINT but have been more of lone wolves. We talked earlier with Robin a little bit about community building, what it means to develop and participate in an OSINT group, and not just in big OSINT groups like the one we have on Discord, but also in smaller groups like in CTFs. Robin, what has been your experience as a Discord manager, as a person that is involved in the community, that sees the conversations, as someone who has participated in CTFs? What is your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I love obviously I love the OSINT Curious Discord server. I love the big community that brings a really broad diversity of viewpoints and skill sets. But of course, what you sort of lose there is the ability to really form like tight connections with people. The ability to get to know people really well as professionals and and as friends. And so and oftentimes like the ability to like work together.
Don't worry. Good,
Well,
Micah is here.
yeah, just continue with what she's saying. Absolutely, I agree with what Robin's saying, that the ability to work in a smaller group where you can really dive into people's strengths and learning from them directly is invaluable. And that's one of the things that I like about Capture the Flags and other challenges online, is that you can pick a team of 3 other people that you think you might want to work with, or you might have complementary skills with, and you can work with them. I've done many Capture the Flags, OSINT and Cyber, and I love saying, hey, I have no idea what the heck this is, and one of my friends that's sitting at the table or on the Zoom or private Zoom with me says, oh, that's this, and they teach me right then and there, and it's just invaluable.
Could you say that there is also an element of trust that plays a role? So, for example, some people would be would feel a bit exposed or shy to ask certain questions to a large group, and maybe when you have a smaller group, you develop a small trust bond. You know that everybody's supporting everybody else in this contained cycle of friends. Would you say that this element of trust and familiarity makes you ask more and perhaps more important questions or more sensitive questions?
I
Something you
absolutely
wouldn't
think.
be comfortable to ask in a big circle?
Yeah, I absolutely think that group psychology type of issues come into play. That in a smaller group where you may have picked the people that you think are going to be supportive of you, the people that are not going to make fun of you or tease you or go, why the heck don't you know how to look at the JSON? Everybody knows how to do that. The people that are going to support you, it's easier to open up. It's easier to be vulnerable and say, gosh, I really don't understand JSON. Does anybody here do that? Because I need to solve this challenge, or I need to harvest this data. And working in a smaller group actually makes that type of sharing and learning so much easier. It also strengthens bonds too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. They say that you like more the people that ask you for help and not the other way around, not the people that you ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
it
it's
happens
another thing.
automatically.
It's being chosen for that group too, and just learning other people. So much of our time online is spent, zooming or live streaming, and you're out there just sending, just talking to people, and then you click off. But that long-term bond, that, yeah, this is a person that I can consider a virtual colleague, is sometimes lost. So doing these smaller group activities like Robin was mentioning, I think are really helpful to building a strengthened community and just a better
Mhm.
connection to other people.
I like that you mentioned the term virtual colleagues. Hi, Robin.
I just made
Um,
that up, Christina.
Sorry,
I
guys.
like it. I like it. We're keeping the term.
Good.
And it's also the fact that when you have a smaller group, you can, and especially when you work on CTFs, you can deep dive a bit more into certain topics than others. Because, okay, in a bigger group, you will ask a question. Yes, then maybe there is a follow-up question. But in smaller groups, you take, like each person takes the time to explain things a bit further. Robin, we were making our own comments on the
Yeah,
topic.
no, absolutely. So yeah, I'm trying to rewind. Yeah, so obviously, like, I love our big Discord community, but um, uh, some of us decided to get together to work on one of the Hacktoria CTFs, and it went so well, working together, and was so much more fun. Like, we because obviously, like, when you're doing a CTF, especially like one that's on the more challenging side, there are moments of, like, if you can laugh at yourself, that are absolutely hysterical, as you go down, like, ridiculous rabbit holes and come up with, like, crazy theories, and way overcomplicate everything. And so, we, like, it was just so enjoyable, both from a, productivity perspective and from just, enjoying, like, the social aspect and laughing together about it. It was probably the only thing that kept most of us from just quitting. Um, and
Oh,
yeah, I mean, but it is good, like, because how many people start CTFs and then it's complicated, you run into something you really can't get past, and you quit. But I mean, it's like, learning to run with other people, or running a
oh yeah.
marathon. If you have teammates that you're going to let down, you are much more likely to show up for your commitments, and to go all the way with it. So we started with that, and it was wonderful. So, and we just sort of kept the server going, and sort of wound up, like, forming a smaller OSINT group. And it's been wonderful because we all sort of bring a different perspective and a different skill set. We have people, across time zones, and we've been able to help each other with cases. We've done more CTFs together. Yeah,
And
also,
Micah was mentioning that you develop a trust bond with those members,
yeah, yeah,
which goes a
exactly.
very long way. Mhm.
Yeah, and they move
Um,
from just a random group of people that you may chat with online to virtual colleagues, right? These are
yeah.
people that you can rely on, that will support you, and ultimately perhaps into friends.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot now, and it's been a blast. I really admire and respect, and all of these people. They're absolutely fantastic, and I trust them. Yeah, I trust their expertise, um, and their motivation, and, like, they get me motivated some days when I'm not. And yeah, it's just wonderful to sort of surround yourself with that support group. Again, like, you're more likely to finish anything, any task that involves a support group, So, or, and, working with others. So I think that it's great for people who are getting started in OSINT, and great for people who are ready to take their career to the next level. Because
Or
I
that
do
are already innocent.
absolutely, like, they've really helped me like level up my OSINT game, I feel.
Yeah. Could you then recommend that it's beneficial for them to be in smaller groups and in larger groups at the same time? I
Oh
think
yeah.
there are different things you can take from each.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, the one thing with smaller groups is that it can become an echo chamber if you're not careful. And big groups offer a broader perspective and a greater depth of knowledge than a smaller group can offer. So yeah, absolutely. Big groups have uh, will still have a place. I mean, obviously, I'm still part of the OSINT Curious server, and hopefully always will be. And bigger groups are where you draw these new members from.
Mhm.
So that's
And
where
where
you
you get different perspectives from as well, like a very wide range of different perspectives,
yeah,
like you
absolutely.
said.
And that's the thing is, with OSINT, like uh, it's so broad and there's so many different angles that having that broader perspective that you get from a larger group is I think really critical.
We have an interesting comment in our chat because we mentioned before that, okay, sometimes in a larger group, you might be shy to ask a question. You might feel that others will perceive you as silly, that, oh, everybody should know this, come on. But in the comment, Access OSINT points out that, hey, it's like they say in school, if you have a question, then it's very likely that other people will have the same question too and are just scared to ask. And I find this to be so true. Sometimes we hold ourselves back also when we attend a training or anything. We say, okay, yeah, I have this question, but maybe it's silly. There are no silly questions. I'm a firm believer of that. Also, even the people that know the answer to somebody, they had the question themselves and they found the answer to it. It's that simple. And I think it's good to remember that if you have that question, what Access OSINT says, if you have the question, it is very likely that others will have it too, and maybe they are shy to ask.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is one of the nicer things about smaller groups is you of course you can, and it's great if you can, be vulnerable in a large group and admit that you don't know things. I think being willing to be vulnerable is one of the most important traits in the center, to admit you don't know, and to show others that you don't know for the purpose of like kind of lifting them up too, and like normalizing that any one of us only knows like a very small fraction of what there is to know about OSINT. But for people who really aren't comfortable opening up in a larger group, a smaller group can give them a place where like they can open up with a smaller group of colleagues and friends and say like, okay, I don't really understand this, or like this is going to sound stupid, but someone explain X. Like where I have a lot of dumb questions about Linux, and like that's anything to do
Yeah.
with like technical side, like that's my weak point. And I'm not really ashamed to look silly on the Discord server, but these guys are great. We have a lot of guys with technical skill, and they're willing to let me be silly on in our smaller group as well. And so for people who are shy, that might be a little bit easier.
We are meant to complement each other. Nobody can do everything. Yeah, I think that these are very good points, Robin. Thanks for bringing them to the table here.
Absolutely.
Okay, then I think we can move to the next topic. The next topic is Nico's search. Where is it? Nico's custom digital business card search engine. And Micah, you are a fan of custom search engines as it is. Did you take a look?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Nico's posts because they come from his experience and his knowledge. And custom search engines on Google, or programmable search engines as they've been renamed, are something that's been around for a while. And there are some really good ones out there that essentially allow you to do a quick search with a quick set of terms like a person's name or email, and then it'll look across a bunch of specific sites that focus the results that come back. And what Nico's done is he's found a bunch of these digital business card sites that he's put into his programmable search engine, and then he opens it up for anybody to use and well, use in their investigation. The thing that I really like about it is the way that Nico went about doing it. He didn't just say, "Here's my programmable search engine, go ahead and use it." He's gone through some really good lengths to help you understand how that programmable search engine is made, what sites it's checking and all. And because he published that, well, it was easy for me to take those sites and put them into the What's My Name username search tool. So by Nico publishing this, it has allowed kind of a trickle down of some other projects to get better as well. So thumbs up to him.
Thanks.
And the fact that he's making it open source is also encouraging perhaps others to share their work, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as he says, once you set it up, you can also search for first names and last names, but you can also search within certain cities, countries, and phone numbers or bio descriptions. I haven't looked into it yet. I think I will. Micah, you also encouraged me to do so with the things that you say. I find this very, very interesting. And Nico, if you're listening, thank you so much for adding this and sharing this with the community. That's also pretty cool.
Especially thanks to everybody out there who builds tools and then sort of explains their processes. I don't like using tools. Yeah. I understand exactly what they're pulling from and how they work, because you can't really understand your results if you don't, if you can't see behind the curtain to know exactly what you're getting. So I really appreciate when people, help us understand where they're getting data from, how it's being processed, and all that. And then I'm sure it's also helpful for other people who are out there making tools to sort of have, templates to look at to inspire their own efforts. So
yes,
thank you guys.
We complement one another.
We do.
Okay, next one is one of my favorite resources when it comes to geolocation tips and techniques, but mainly tutorials. Many of you will have probably heard, especially if you are into geolocation, Benjamin Strick. He was also one of the OSINT Curious founding members, and for the past few years, but he has been more active the past year, he has been creating YouTube tutorials. And the last week, I believe, 6 days ago, he also came up with a new series that is called Let's Geolocate. And that series is containing very actionable techniques on how to geolocate something. He starts with finding big art pieces from above, but I would say the whole list of videos is very actionable. Not only is he posting the walkthrough of how to find, for example, how to geolocate big art pieces, he's also walking you through the mentality of the whole process, his thinking process. How do you start? You see this art piece. What do you think next? How do you narrow down the area? And on top of that, he includes all the tools and resources that he's using in each video. They are down in the show notes. I think the entire channel is a very good resource for learning OSINT.
Oh yeah, Ben is absolutely incredible. Like Matthew's put into the YouTube chat, he's a geolocation wizard, but also his Australian accent, his calm demeanor,
Come on.
his accent, I know. And his confidence and ease of which that he breaks down topics to make it accessible is just absolutely fabulous. So not only are you entertained by well put together videos, but you're also learning, and he brings those accessible tools to you so that you can do the things that he does. And I love that about his videos. I always leave them not thinking, oh my God, Ben is so great and I'll never be as smart as him, but I always feel like I can do this too. And so his videos are very encouraging and free on YouTube.
I think he's able to explain these concepts very clearly and bring them across as something doable because of the way he's explaining everything, which is such a nice skill to have.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the topics he's covering, yes, now we have the Let's Geolocate series. I watched the first episode. I'm looking forward for the next ones. But I had also found other videos interesting, like calculating time using shadows. It was something that I was always intrigued by. And this is just a 20-minute video, but it really makes you understand the concept and the mathematics behind calculating time using shadows. Creating a satellite image time lapse, and other topics. I think it's definitely worth looking into it.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I'll add, like, he very, very high production quality on the videos, like you guys mentioned, and especially like, articles are wonderful, but the videos are nice. I have some, like, spatial dyslexia, so when I just read it, about geolocation techniques, sometimes it does not, it doesn't fully click, and it's nice when people are producing in a variety of mediums. So yeah, appreciate that great series being out there.
I think it's good that you bring that up because there are different types of learner, and while some people are like prefer to read, some others prefer to listen. That's why also in our podcast we have many listeners, many more listeners than viewers usually. But it has to do with the way you learn best in the end of the day. And in some cases, this is just being a bit more visual, wanting to see the process, to hear the process, but also seeing it. So yeah, producing it in different ways is good, it's useful. Yes, we have some articles. Having a video on top of it just makes the information more accessible to everybody. And speaking about geolocation, I will go to our last topic for today. I'm also looking into your comments. The last topic for today is a geolocation cheat sheet that the OSINT made public into his GitHub account. I would recommend taking a look at it altogether. Basically, it is a mind map about geolocation analysis, and it takes you through all the different sources of information you can look into when you're looking into something visual and visual imagery, and you want to geolocate it. Now, what I would recommend on this topic, but I would also like to hear Robin's and Micah's opinion on that, is when you have a workflow or a cheat sheet, yes, you should look at it. I think they are great. I think they help you keep things into perspective, and they help you make sure that you have exhausted every possible resource. But in my opinion, I would first go through all the visual cues in an image myself without looking into any cheat sheet, into any workflow. I would take a picture, I would analyze it, I would see where it can take me, and only after I would have exhausted my personal capabilities and my ideas on this visual, only then I would go to a cheat sheet or to a mind map, like the one from the OSINT, and look to see what I have forgotten potentially. And I would do that because I believe it helps me avoid tunnel vision. Because sometimes we look into workflows and then there is nothing else that we see beyond that workflow. We stay attached to that. What do you guys think?
No, I'm completely with you on that. I think it also can break your flow to go very, like, rigidly step by step through a workflow. I also tend to use, and I'm a huge fan of workflows
Me
and
too.
process charts. Like, I love them.
Me
I
too.
yeah, I make them in my spare time. Yeah, thanks to Sin Wendy for all of his amazing maps that I have borrowed from. But yeah, I usually use them as sort of as cleanup after, like, sort of my initial sweep, and I go through my own process, and I do things like a little bit more intuitively. Then I check my workflow and I go back and I make sure that I hit everything, and that there's no potential data points that I'm leaving on the table.
And for me,
And I think
it's really a mix of both what you all are saying, and also having that workflow. What I'm seeing here is very similar to SynWindy's. It's not a
Mm.
do this step 1, step 2, step 3. It's more as SynWindy describes it in his attack flow diagrams. This is all of the things that you could possibly extract from some place, some social media site or a website or an email. This is like all the possibilities. It doesn't tell you which to do first, second, third, and that's where your process comes in. And I noticed that people that are just starting out in open source intelligence, or just people that are starting out just in general, they need that do number 1, do number 2, do number 3, all the way up to 10, and then go ahead and explore that data. Whereas people that are more experienced, like you all, like me, that can look at things and go, up, this feels like it's going to be this based upon my experience. We use those attack surface diagrams as checklists, as did I cover
Mm.
everything completely? So I don't think there's a right or a wrong way, but I do notice that they're used in different manners depending upon where you are and what your knowledge and skill comfort level is.
That's very interesting, Micah. I tend to lean more towards Robin. I feel that they would block my intuition, but what you are saying makes absolute sense. And I think that if I was starting out, yes, I would use them so that I can feel safe that I have covered every aspect.
Yeah, and you feel you do that. You feel like it would limit you because you know about all those different ways of exploring an image or a profile. You've got all that in your head. If you had nothing, using those, here's
Hmm.
all the things, it's going to be very overwhelming. So that's where I figure, and that's where I like process, do number 1, 2, and 3, and then go do the cleanup can help. I'm sorry, Robin. I noticed that you wanted to say something for sure. Go ahead.
Oh, no, well, yeah, so I was just gonna add, the other thing that I think is really valuable about, having these methodology sheets or attack surfaces is your intelligence gaps. So that's sort of
Mm.
on the other side of those unchecked blocks are all intelligence gaps, and gaps are important, and we should be doing gap analysis even in OSINT. So, it's relevant if a target never includes a certain data point when they're registering accounts. So yeah, I would encourage people to also use them to notice where there are gaps, and then to have a look at that holistically, at some point in their investigation, and see what they might be able to what intelligence they might be able to derive from that lack of information. And it can help you when you're ready to move on. Like, that's sort of how when you're going for round 2, you've sort of done your initial look. If you're going to go deeper, having those gaps is very useful for developing a collection plan for round 2.
Right. And you've used some really great words that people in the intelligence world will
Mm.
absolutely know about: gap analysis, collection plan. What they simply boil down to, Robin, and tell me if I'm wrong here, is these are things that I don't know, or these are things that I missed. And so if you
Mm.
look at that attack surface diagram, or the PDF or the PNG that's on this the Saint PL list, then you can say, hey, you know what? I don't know how to do vegetation analysis. And then that's a new growth area for you as an investigator, so to get better at. Would you say that's right? Or
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's certainly like, an element of it that I hadn't even really thought of is like, identifying things that you don't yet know how to collect.
mm-hmm.
But then of course, sometimes with gaps, like the information is either just not there, or
Yep.
it is, or you haven't been able to, or you haven't found it yet,
Okay.
because it's going to require, some other methodology. Or some other site that you haven't found yet, and then you can sort of develop your collection plan to like, well, I think this is probably out there, like, and how am I going to get at it? But yeah, I hadn't even thought about you sort of using it as to develop like a lesson plan for yourself too, which is awesome. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, noticing your gaps during a process, during an investigation, and also making a small note so that you can go back and learn more about it and cover that gap.
yeah, I don't
Is
know
one
about
of
you two, but I have a list and that I keep in the Obsidian Vault of all those things I don't feel I know enough about, and that when I have a rainy day or whatever, I can go ahead and read up on, or just learn a little bit more about to feel more confident.
so long. The list is so
It
long.
keeps growing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at this point, it's like the only option which I have been trying to incorporate a bit more into my routine is to specifically create time blocks for learning and developing your skill
Oh, that's
set.
great.
There is no other way we can cover that list. And it really bothers me. I hate seeing a very long list. I am not doing anything about it. I just cannot. So you have to be intentional around this.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And that constant learning and getting better is something that the most successful people I've seen in investigations, in cyber, that's what they're doing. You know, if you just rest on your way of doing image analysis, your way of doing domain analysis without exploring the new tools, the new techniques, reading the new blogs, then you're behind. You're going to stay behind.
Oh. Yeah, that's kind of true. I will only add a couple of words about the geolocation cheat sheet because the SEINT has done a very good job on it, actually. And I will just mention for the listeners a couple of points that he adds. Yes, in the center, we have the entire geolocation analysis diagram bullet point, let's say. But then he has subcategories like banners, people, vehicles, nature, buildings. What do you observe? And for example, if you observe a banner, is it a city sign? Then it goes into three other subcategories like the name of the city, the logo of the city, or potential municipal buildings. If you see a menu on the screen, do you see the kind of language that is on that menu? Do you observe any currencies? Do you observe any potential names or phone numbers on that menu? I really like that you try to be as detailed about the different points of observation as possible. I think it is absolutely worth taking a look, especially if your work revolves around image analysis and geolocation.
And it shows just a neat way of documenting things in a mind
Oh,
map
yeah.
so that you can, so if you find yourself with what are all the things I can do, you know, as a more senior investigator, one of the big challenges that we have is how do I share my experience? How do I get the junior people up to my level so that they can be more competent and more effective in their work? And just doing a brain dump like this and displaying it in a mind map or a list or Obsidian Ball or whatever is capturing that knowledge in case you get COVID and can't do work for several weeks or whatever. You're sharing that knowledge, which for other people is incredibly important. And even if you think, hey, they know all these things, you know, they're my peer, and everybody has their own take on how to do this or that technique. So your way of thinking, your way of writing things down, your way of analyzing things is also going to be novel to those people. And so they might see a different perspective. So don't poo-poo this technique. Write down what you're thinking and share it with other people you trust.
That's a wonderful thing to say and to keep in mind, Micah. I think we can close with this comment as well. And Robin,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can close with that in mind, Micah. Thank you so much for being here today. Robin, thank you for joining us. Thank you for offering a perspective. It was very interesting, very useful as well. But thank you also to our wonderful listeners for being here for another monthly OSINT news and tools. And don't forget to join us also next month. We have the next live stream on the 28th of November. Same time, same place. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you all next time.
Bye,
Goodbye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.